We're diving headfirst into this unwritten code that women have been silently guarding for, well, generations. It's a really fascinating piece of relationship psychology. Have you ever had that feeling where a woman you're totally in love with just mentally checks out and you're left standing there with absolutely no clue what just happened? Well, it turns out there's a huge chance she was desperately waiting for you to do something she wanted but absolutely refused to ask for. We're going to unpack exactly what those hidden desires are today, looking at some seriously revealing data.
So let's look at the numbers. Researchers at the University of Texas actually ran a multi-year study on communication gaps in romantic relationships, and they uncovered a completely staggering statistic. 72%. Yep, 72% of women admitted that they want specific behaviors from their partner that they have never, not even once, verbally asked for. Now, why on earth would they do that? Well, because they feel like having to ask for it literally strips all the meaning away. To her, she'd rather just go without the things she wants than have to spell it out for you. And it's not her just being stubborn, I promise. It's actually a fundamental wiring in how attraction and emotional safety are built.
So how do we actually decode this wiring? Here is our roadmap for this explainer. We're going to start with the silent gap, then move into calming mental overload, the art of continued pursuit, projecting confidence, the power of physicality, and finally, taking action.
All right, let's jump straight into Section 1, the silent relationship gap, and the danger of the unspoken. You see, failing to grasp this unspoken dynamic means she might just mentally rewrite your entire relationship and emotionally move on, completely without a single argument.
Which brings us right into Section 2, calming the mental overload, or as I like to call it, addressing the 17 open tabs. Just take a look at this massive 70% share of invisible cognitive labor that's carried by women in heterosexual relationships. Her brain is literally running an invisible project management system, and there are 17 tabs open, and honestly, none of them are loading properly. Researcher Eve Rodsky highlights this in her book Fair Play, pointing out that the sheer exhaustion doesn't just come from doing the physical chores. No, it comes from being the only person who even remembers that those tasks exist in the first place. This chronic stress is just constantly running in the background. So, when you proactively step up and handle something, like getting the oil changed or stocking the fridge, without announcing it and without expecting a parade for doing it, it creates this embarrassingly powerful wave of relief and attraction.
But when she's visibly overwhelmed, there's a massive disconnect in how we tend to respond. Just notice the contrast here. The typical male instinct, it's logical troubleshooting. Problem identified, solution offered. Hey, have you tried talking to your boss? But her actual desire in that moment is physical certainty and presence. She wants you to walk over without saying a single word, pull her right against your chest, and just hold her. No advice, no commentary, just your physical presence communicating, I'm solid, you can fall apart for a second. And there's hard science backing this up. Dr. Tiffany Field, who founded the Touch Research Institute at the University of Miami, published data proving that physical touch reduces cortisol levels. That's the stress hormone, by up to an astonishing 31% in just a matter of minutes. To put that in perspective, your physical presence is a literal biological hack for her stress. But here's the catch. She won't ask you to hold her, because asking for comfort feels like she's filing a formal complaint against her own independence. She needs you to read those tense shoulders and naturally close the distance.
Okay, moving on to Section 3, the art of continued pursuit, otherwise known as the relationship killer.
This crucial point becomes super obvious when we look at Dr. John Gottman's outcome data. His research can actually predict divorce with over 90% accuracy, and he calls this the erosion of turning toward. If you really want to know what silently kills a relationship faster than anything else, it's abandoning the active pursuit of your partner the second things become official. Just look at these numbers. Couples who eventually separated had a turning toward rate of only 33%, but successful couples, they maintained a rate well above 80%. She doesn't need these crazy grand romantic gestures every single week. What she needs is consistent evidence that if you matter for the very first time this afternoon, you would still pursue her. If you don't do that, she just becomes furniture in your life, and that emotional distance slowly hardens.
So what's an incredibly simple but insanely potent way to maintain that connection? Just use her actual name. Whether it's during intimate moments or literally just asking her to pass the salt. Brain research actually shows that hearing your own name activates specific regions of the left hemisphere that are tied to identity. It's such a fascinating biological quirk. Generic pet names like Babe or Honey are warm, sure, but think about it. Every woman you've ever dated was probably Babe. Her name is exclusively hers. When you use it in a moment of intensity, it creates this sudden neurological electricity that makes her feel so instinctively chosen.
Which leads us nicely to Section 4, confidence and specific desire. It's all about claiming without caging.
Let's talk about external dynamics, specifically how you handle outside attention. Imagine another guy is flirting with her. Getting into a fight or making a big scene? That's reactive jealousy. It's a complete liability, and honestly, it just feels like caging. On the flip side, if you just sit there acting completely unbothered with zero reaction, she registers that you simply don't care enough to respond. The real sweet spot? That's calm dominance. It's walking over, placing a hand on our lower back, and looking the other guy in the eye with this relaxed confidence that clearly says, I see what you're doing. I'm not threatened at all, but she's with me.
Evolutionary psychologist Dr. David Buss actually gave this behavior a name. He found that women consistently rate what he calls proportional mate guarding as incredibly attractive. And proportional is absolutely the key word here. Too much, and she feels completely controlled. Too little, and she feels completely unvalued. But claiming her with a calm, measured possessiveness, that signals absolute confidence and investment. It tells her everything she needs to know about your willingness to claim her without caging her.
And when you express your desire directly to her, you've got to ditch the baseline compliments. Saying you're beautiful is honestly like leaving a 15% tip. It's expected and it leaves absolutely zero impression. What actually makes her replay your words at 2 a.m. is intense specificity. It's saying something like, the way you tilt your head makes it physically difficult for me to concentrate. It's a raw, almost confessional admission to a slightly unmanageable attraction. You're basically admitting that she disrupts your ability to function normally. You really can't fake that. So if you feel it, stop censoring yourself and say it out loud.
All right, on to Section 5, the power of physicality, our primal, nonverbal connection.
This one operates entirely outside of language, and let me tell you, it makes women lose their composure the fastest. A study published in Evolutionary Behavioral Sciences actually found that what they define as physical assertiveness is one of the top 5 indicators of a desirable partner. Now, let's be clear, this is not about aggression. It's about confident, non-aggressive physical guidance. It instantly activates these deep, primal associations with protection, decisiveness, and physical confidence. It simply shows that you are completely comfortable in your own strength and confident enough to pull her into your space.
So, what does this actually look like in practice? Well, it's placing a hand on her waist to steer her to the inside of the sidewalk, safely away from traffic. It's your fingers suddenly laced through hers, gently pulling her in a different direction to show her something cool. It's a firm palm against her lower back, guiding her through a crowded doorway. It's real-time electricity. Every single time you confidently close that physical distance without a second of hesitation, you become the man she compares every fictional character to. And you win. You win because you are actually standing right there, proving that reality is so much better.
And finally, Section 6, turning knowledge into action, the final verdict.
Listen, if you've followed along this far, it shows you genuinely want to understand the psychology of attraction, which is absolutely fantastic. But we all know that knowledge without action is just interesting trivia. So here is the sobering reality that ties this whole thing together. While you're sitting here analyzing these concepts, there is an entirely separate reality playing out on her end. She has been constantly evaluating, calculating, and in many cases, she has actually already made her silent decision about your relationship. She just isn't sharing it with you yet.
So the ultimate challenge I have for you is this. In your very next quiet moment together, are you going to just play it safe? Or will you take the initiative, close that physical distance, lift the mental load, and actually do something that makes her feel something? The choice is entirely yours. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you next time.